Welcome to the AI Customer Service Podcast, where we explore the intersection of artificial intelligence with customer service and support with industry leaders and innovators. Today, we have Ian Golding as our guest speaker. Ian is a certified customer experience professional who have helped brands like British Telecom, Pfizer, Cisco, Generali. Ian is also the author of the book Customer What, which you can see behind him, which you should definitely check out if you are planning to up your game in customer experience. Ian, thank you so much for taking the time out today for doing this podcast with us. Why don't you begin with a brief introduction about you? I know you have a lot to say, but we'll just begin with a brief introduction.
Well, it's a real pleasure, Manab, and thank you for mentioning my book. It's sort of I leave it behind me and let people worry about that if they want to. But in addition to what you've said, I work with organisations all around the world to help them understand how to what I call operationalise customer experience. So it isn't about theory; it's about putting that theory into practice. And as of 3 weeks' time, I will have worked in 61 countries around the world helping them to do that. So I'm very honoured to be able to see what I do all around the world. And in February next year, I'll have been doing it for 30 years, if you can believe that. So
Wow, 3 decades. 3 decades. Yeah, I know that you have been doing your own thing for the past 12 years.
it'll be
Uh,
13,
13?
13
Okay,
years.
one more
Yeah,
year added. Yeah, on top of
yeah,
that. Yeah. Awesome. It's a great achievement, Ian. I know you have worked with some big brands. I know you
yes,
have worked in retail, hospitality. But today's topic is AI in customer experience, which
yes.
is everybody's talking about, and we'll try to
They
go
are.
deep. I want to have your thoughts. What have you seen in the market? What are leaders expecting out of this AI and customer service? So, what's the most common tip you just give to anyone before implementing AI
Well,
and
well,
CX strategy? Any specific use case that
Well,
you
you're
have
quite
seen?
right. I mean, it is the hot topic. It probably has been for 18 months, 2 years, and I think it will continue to be so. Um, it- and it's inevitable that we live in a world where technology advances so quickly that we're always going to be subject to innovation that, in theory, will make our lives easier and help companies to make more money. Okay, now, but there is a dichotomy there in a way, because when we talk about the impact that AI has on our lives, well, as human beings in our own right, AI is all around us. I'm using AI continuously, sometimes without even realizing it, sometimes intentionally. If we just search on a search engine, not just Google, but others do exist, Google is automatically using AI to provide us with a search result. So, AI is a fact of life, right now, for want of a better description. But in terms of what tips do I give to organizations, the message has to be, what is the motivation behind utilizing artificial intelligence? Is the motivation to try and make more money, or is the motivation to enable your organization to become more effective at developing better relationships with your employees and your customers? And as a result, that developing of deeper relationships makes more money. Now, to some, that might sound like the same thing, but it isn't. I think right now there is a I think an unstated worry that AI is all about eliminating humans, with some, but actually it shouldn't be seen that way. And my tip to any organization that is still trying to get to grips with AI is, if you think AI is the answer to saving money, cutting cost, then you've misunderstood, in my opinion, the power of it. If you think that AI can make it easier for your people to do their job and easier for your customers to achieve what they want to achieve, and as a result, you save money, then your motivation is right. And it sounds so subtle, but it isn't subtle. You know, AI is an enabler. Digital technology in general is an enabler, but AI is the most exciting enabler to come along in customer experience ever. Because it will, if used in the right way, make everyone's jobs so much easier, both customer and employee.
That's a great answer, and I totally agree with you. So most people, they think they will bring in AI, they will cut off some people, let go of some people. But if you use AI to provide an excellent positive experience, you will in fact in the long run save a lot of money. You will make
100%.
money if you use it correctly.
Do you
That's
know,
that's
most organizations that I've dealt with over the last 30 years, most will say to me that they don't have enough people, they're stretched, we're time constrained. But in reality, even long before AI was even known as a thing, most organizations do have enough people. It's not the amount of people, it's what those people are doing. And even 30 years ago when I first started working, people were just ineffective, that they were broken processes and duplicating work and doing things they shouldn't really be doing. But that's no different to this day. And so when we think, why are we so busy? Well, what we need to determine is what is it that our people are doing that they don't have to do? And that's not replacing them, it's taking away the unnecessary stuff, that the things that they shouldn't have to do, the stuff that, quite frankly, AI can just churn out without a human needing to do it, which then leaves your people time to focus on the things that really matter. The things that really matter being the development of relationships. AI can't develop a relationship. Yeah, well, I'm sure someone listening to this will disagree, but can AI really empathize? Can it really understand how someone feels? Humans understand how humans feel. So let's free up our humans to focus on what really matters. Let's use AI to deal with the stuff that doesn't need human intervention.
That's great. So when you were saying, will AI understand or empathize? There was a situation I read somewhere in the news. It's a very funny one. So there's a AI company that helps you do prospecting for the salespeople.
Yes.
So what it
Yes.
does, it goes to LinkedIn and your prospects. It checks out all your prospects' content, what they're doing, and they will send out an email or a LinkedIn email based on that. Somebody's mother died, and that person was putting, hey,
Yes.
I feel very sorry about my mother, and that's what he felt about this. I respect my mother, I love my mother, I miss her.
Yes.
And then the AI went out and said, hey, use a tool to reduce your grief.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yes.
AI did not understand that,
Yeah,
right?
I think I've heard of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's really the point. Now, who knows? I'm sure over time technology will become more capable of doing things like that. But do we really want technology to be doing that? Ultimately, you've heard me say before, and I say every week, experiences are about human to human interaction. It's not about technological intervention. What we remember is the way we feel about an experience. So I think any organization that wants to eradicate that entirely, in my opinion, that they're making arguably a mistake.
Mistake.
Because unless what they do doesn't require human interaction, then that's fine. But if you do require a relationship that has emotion connected to it, you've got to balance the use of artificial intelligence with the use of human empathy, human intervention.
And yeah, one of the industry that cannot have or would have to struggle a lot to bring in AI is hospitality, because that's
Yes.
a face-to-face experience. How do you think, or what are few use cases or few things or few services that they can automate with AI?
You see, I think hospitality is a great example. So restaurants, for example, and in a way, we were given an insight into what hospitality could look like in a completely artificial world during COVID. So, we got to the point where, in some face to face restaurants or bars, you couldn't interact with a server. So, you had to scan a QR code, then use your phone to place your order. But, the interesting thing about that is that, what if what you wanted to do wasn't as black and white as the digital interaction was asking? So what if I wanted to order a burger, but actually I only wanted the bottom bun, and I didn't want, I wanted one slice of tomato. Being really specific. What if the technology doesn't allow me to do that? A human would understand that. Well, look, listen, I know it's a bit strange, but I've got, yeah, don't worry, sir, that's no problem. I can deal with that. A human can adapt to that kind of situation. I think, will we be in a place where technology could do that? Maybe, but there are certain things that are simplified through digital technology, but it doesn't necessarily mean the experience is going to be improved. So, actually, a lot of people I know, depending on their mindset framework, they don't want to talk to a server. They do just want to use an app to place the order. But maybe the answer to all of this is that hospitality, um, if we use, I often talk about McDonald's as an example. McDonald's is arguably a digital restaurant because you can place your order on their app, you can place their order on a digital touchscreen. They have multiple channels that you can utilize to place the order. But what McDonald's, whether you like it or not, not you personally, but whether or not people like McDonald's or not, what McDonald's understood is that when you're adopting digital technology, what you mustn't do is eliminate choice. So
Exactly.
what they have done is give you you can use whatever method you prefer. And if you want to walk into a restaurant and speak to someone, you can. And I think that is the answer. And this is where hospitality will never lose that, because you need to have that option of giving people the ability to interact with a human. Um, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't adopt digital technology for those that want it to be even quicker, that don't want any interaction. So, like everything, it's a balance. If we force customers down one route, that's not necessarily the right thing to do. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. Most of the companies who are providing or implementing AI, they have done what they do. So we have a lot of customers who are using our AI chatbot, right? So at the end of the day, they try to do everything automated through the generative AI chatbot. But at the end, after doing a trial of 3 months, they come back and they say, hey, 20% of queries would be automated by AI or
Yes.
50%, but the rest
Yes.
we need an human being
Yeah.
because that's where the complex
And
tasks are resolved.
but that's the way it should be, because
Mhm.
if the artificial intelligence is very clever, it should identify that I can't do this.
Right.
You need to speak to a human.
Yeah.
And that's almost the point I made, that there is a lot that the bot can do that actually. We shouldn't be wasting the time of the human. So for example, if you phone a retailer and say, "What time is your shop open until?"
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't need a human to tell you that. And this is why I think it's so important that people don't dismiss AI, but actually we need to embrace it. But, and the big but with this, coming back to your point about AI and customer experience, in my opinion, the only way organizations can make effective decisions about how to apply and adopt AI is if they understand their customer journey. And I think
Exactly. Where it should start from.
one of the worries I have is that because AI has been so explosive, just in terms of everyone jumping on the bandwagon, it's being thrown at things without people understanding the journey, and so the impact potentially will not either deliver the result you're looking for or will actually make the customer experience worse. And that's my worry.
Yeah. So what happened is what I've heard from your sessions, every company builds a strategy, but after a point of time, they
Yes,
forget, and they bring in AI, and the whole thing is gone. It's all a mess. They don't know how to connect. There are
that's right.
gaps. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there any specific company industry where you have seen AI being implemented really well, where you can see, okay, these guys have
Not
done it
yet,
really well?
not yet, which I think is interesting. Um, I see a lot of confusion, but that's not. I think it's probably because it's a bit overwhelming. You know, to any AI vendor, I don't like using that term, but anyone that is providing AI solutions, to a degree, I don't think people are really thinking about what it feels like to be the client because they're being bombarded by, from every side with AI. We've got AI solutions, AI solutions, and I think it is too overwhelming for people. Where do you go? A lot of these organizations have existing relationships with technology vendors that provide their operating platforms. They're telling them we can do AI, and I think it's almost preventing businesses from having an effective approach to putting it in place.
Hmm.
And so, again, hesitating at being repetitive about the importance of the journey, I will always say to any technology vendor, you know, be conscious of that sense of being overwhelmed. What you need to do is to show companies how your AI technology can be applied to the customer journey. That I think will help people to make better decisions as to, is this right for us? Um, Quite frankly, I mean, as a consultant, I don't get these calls, but I'm pretty sure that many companies are getting dozens of contacts on a daily basis from companies offering them AI solutions. And it gets to the point where you just shut down. I'd rather just ignore it because I just don't know what to do. So in answer to your question, as a result, I have not yet seen a brilliant example of an organization that has adopted AI effectively to then demonstrate what the return on investment is, both through the improvement of financial performance and customer perception. I suspect in 2025 I will see that, but not yet.
Got it. Got it. It makes sense. Yeah. So there has to be a really good case study that it should come up. But yeah, people are waiting for that. And once
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
there,
But,
yeah, then we'll
but I
know.
think that
Yeah.
in itself is a bit. It should be a wake up call, because
Mm-hmm.
if I can't tell you any great examples, so well, what's happening? Everyone talks about it, but it doesn't happen, and I think that this is a risk at the moment.
Right.
That people just get bored of it, sick of it. There's just too much noise. We need people to be much clearer about this is how we can help you to improve the customer journey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So before coming to this session, I went to I obviously I asked ChatGPT, I used Perplexity about the same things. Can you give me a bad example of an AI? Can you
Yes,
give me a good example of AI that people are using in the customer service? On bad example, I got that reference of that LinkedIn sales
yes,
app where it gave a bad example, or on a good example, not on a good example, but what I found out was there's this company called as Klarna. They laid off some 700 of their support agents, and so it has nothing to do with the AI being coming in. So in the mid of 2022, they laid off some 700 employees, and after some point of time, they brought in AI, and the investment on AI they made was 17% of their whole revenue, which was around $220 million.
yes.
And at the end of the day, the CEO said the information on the market is that the productivity gains from the AI far outweighed the investment. $220 million, it was nothing in front of the AI that employees were using. The productivity was getting better and better.
Yes.
And when the employees were asked, hey, do you want to work without the AI? And they said, hey, we cannot work. Now we are habituated. For example, I am habituated with ChatGPT. I very much rely, is my sentence correct?
Yes.
Sending an
Yes.
email
Yes.
to
Yes.
you,
Yes.
I always put it to ChatGPT. Yeah. So that's one example I have seen. But I don't support that where people lay off employees because AI is coming in. The best way is to help them being more productive,
You see,
and then you can
I
deliver a
suppose
great
it
example.
depends what your definition of success is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting that some CEOs will see that as a big, yeah, we've made money, but is it going to enable you to drive sustainable growth?
Exactly.
Anyone
Yeah.
can make money in the short term.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds like I'm being very blunt, but laying off 700 people, you will immediately make money. It's very easy to do.
Yeah.
But will that enable your organization to be successful in the long term is a different matter. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think, again, the jury is still out. Not on is AI useful, because as far as I'm concerned, it's brilliant. If I'd have had AI 30 years ago, my life would have been so much easier. So AI is amazing. It is game changing, but it's how we use it that's the problem. And I
Right.
think that's what people need to get their heads around. AI is, and I have said in the past, you may have heard me say it. In principle, AI is not new. You know,
Yeah.
I will always say to people, text analytics. If you ever used a text analytics tool, that is a form of AI. It's sort of it's been there in the background anyway. It's just become much more sophisticated and will continue to be more sophisticated. And so it's the smart people who use it in the right way that are the ones that will benefit. And like you, ChatGPT is brilliant. I mean, it really is brilliant. But the funniest application of ChatGPT for me is I've got three kids. I don't know if I've told you this before. I say kids, 21, 20, and 17. And recently they typed all of our names into ChatGPT to see if ChatGPT would recognize who we are. And they were most disappointed that the only reference back was me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
ChatGPT knows who I am, but it didn't know who
Uh,
they were.
who they are. Yeah. They will slowly have their records on the internet. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I said to them. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that is awesome. Okay, coming back to my, so when you talked about companies saving money, I remember you once telling about a great story about Amazon, how they were one of the first companies who would allow customers to return and get money instantly, while other companies, they would, hey, give us the thing, we'll check it, and we'll only refund you after we full proof check it. Can
Yes.
you tell our audience about that, how
Yeah. I
Amazon did
mean,
that?
again, this is, I suppose, more a focus on how organizations need to understand the importance of the end-to-end journey. But you're absolutely right. I talk a lot about Amazon. Some people don't like me talking about Amazon, but you cannot ignore Amazon. And one of the things that people forget is that when Jeff Bezos founded Amazon, his motivation was to create a company that did the right thing for the customer. But he knew that that would mean taking a number of risks that would actually delay Amazon becoming a profitable business. So, for example, a lot of people still don't realize that Amazon are the only retailer in the world with a one click purchase. Because when Jeff Bezos created the company, he wanted the journey to be as simple as possible. And as a result, he didn't want there to be multiple clicks to be able to make the purchase. But at the time, every bank insisted that a retailer had verified by Visa as one of the parts of the checkout process. Now, verified by Visa was horrible. The amount of bad experiences I had with verified by Visa. So Jeff Bezos said, no, I don't want it. And so the bank said, okay, you have to pay more for each transaction. And he said, I don't care. I don't want it. I want the experience to be simpler. So that's how they managed to put in place the one click purchase. But to your question, what Amazon also understood is that part of the online retail journey is you will buy something that is either damaged, broken, doesn't fit, you decide you don't want it, and so you'll need to return it. But for many people, returning an item is a significant irritation in the journey. I used to work for an online retailer. I will never forget a story that someone told me where someone ordered a king size bed and the king size bed was damaged. Okay. But what do you do with a damaged king size bed when it's been delivered to your home, waiting for it to be collected by the retailer who won't refund your money until they collect it and then prove that you didn't break the bed? You're To cut a long story short, most retailers will consider the customer to be guilty until proven innocent.
Yep. Yep.
Amazon said, well, do you know what? We can't do that because whilst we're waiting for the item to be returned, that customer won't buy anything else. And at the time, Amazon's primary role was a book retailer. It was only later that they started to deal with everything, and they wanted you to buy another book. And what if your Kindle breaks? You can't add another book to a Kindle that's broken. So do you know what? We're going to trust you. We'll send you another Kindle. So you can keep buying your books. When your Kindle comes back, then we'll have a look at it and we'll see. You know, it there are so many stories of Amazon by accident sending two of the same thing. You know, but actually it costs more money for you to send one back. So don't worry about it. And it's that attitude that means, well, of course I'm going to buy again from Amazon, because I'm innocent until proven guilty. But if we connect this to AI, the benefit of artificial intelligence is that they can tell. They know from the data that if you're someone who is, doing the wrong thing, they'll
Again
know.
and again.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, they don't have to,
They see
go
a
into an
pattern.
Excel
Yeah.
spreadsheet, and AI can do that. There's a great example in the UK of a hotel chain called Premier Inn. Now,
Hmm.
Premier Inn are in some other countries. They're in Dubai, for example. It's a I hesitate to call it a budget hotel, but it's a sort of lower cost hotel. But they have a good sleep guarantee. Okay, which means that if when you're checking out, you say to them that I had a terrible night's sleep because I don't know the tap was dripping or next
The
door made
mattress was not
noise,
comfortable. Yeah.
problem with the mattress, they will not make you pay for the night. Okay,
Okay.
they guarantee it. Now, I once had a conversation with Premier Inn and said, surely people abuse that. And they said,
Yeah.
no, no, we know. We've got the data. We know if someone is abusing it. But at the time, that would have been done manually. Now it can be done through AI. They don't need to do it manually. That the AI will tell them straight away. This customer has had, three refunds in the past for saying they had a bad night's sleep. Just check it out.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is where AI can start to play such a powerful role. But the mindset has to be there. Any retailer can do what Amazon does if they've got the same mindset, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, not many do.
That example was really great from Premier in how they're using AI into their service. Um, you always say Dubai Police is one of a great example of customer experience. And I never heard the reason why. So today I have this opportunity you have with me. I really want to know, why do you say Dubai Police has a great
um,
customer experience?
well, it's interesting because it isn't just Dubai Police. Actually, I have in the last 2 weeks hosted the Saudi Customer Experience Awards and the International Customer Experience Awards, and um, that region will always fascinate me because customer experience is being led by the public sector, not the private sector. And one of the defining factors of both the UAE and Saudi Arabia is there is a belief that they need to do the right thing, not just for customers, but for the citizen. and it's led by government. So for Dubai Police, because the government wants to have happy customers, happy citizens, it's just as important for the police to treat citizens in the way they would expect to treat themselves. And so everything
Wow.
they do is with the citizen at heart. Now, obviously, if you break the law, if you do something wrong, the full force of the law will be applied. But um, I've also given gold awards to the Dubai Public Prosecution Service. The prosecution service in Saudi Arabia also won an award 2 weeks ago. Because again, even if you've done something wrong, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be treated in the right way. And so, but again, this is mindset. Both of those countries have an aspiration to grow. And so both of those countries are changing. They are trying to improve what they do for their citizens, but also their guests, tourists that come to those countries. And that's why I think it's brilliant to see that even a police force can apply the same principles of thinking and acting in the interests of the citizen as the way a private company would think and act in the interests of the customer. It's not just about their Lamborghinis and that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yes,
It's not
they
about
do
the
have cool
Lamborghinis.
cars as well.
Yeah, yeah, and the way they dress and everything, it's so clean and pure, right? I really love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Ian, coming back to AI in customer experience, most of the time, whenever people say AI in customer service, support, customer experience, people talk about putting AI into chat, putting AI into email, putting AI into phone. What else do you see? What other departments, what other use cases do you see people can use
So
AI?
the way I would respond to that is, and it almost takes, well, it does take me back to a principle that I was executing in the 90s, just to show my age, of value flow analysis. Now, anyone that's ever been involved in process improvement will know what value flow analysis is. Um, Value flow analysis is a technique applied to processes. Now, anyone listening to this will know that processes represent the things we do every day. Um, what value flow analysis would look at is what is it that people do every day that doesn't add value? Okay. So there are so many things that we do, like completing an Excel spreadsheet, submitting, sales numbers to something, responding to emails that we don't necessarily need to respond to, tasks that we perform that actually don't add value to the customer and don't add value to the business. Now, in the 90s, to identify that stuff, you'd have to do it manually. And organizations would do something known as a time and motion study, where you'd literally, on a piece of paper, document everything you did every day, how long it took you to do it, and whether it added value or didn't add value. Okay.
Yep.
This is sort of the forefather or foremother of AI, because what AI should now be doing is identifying that activity and replacing that activity, the need for the human to do it. A word in process improvement circles that we need to be leveraging is waste. There is so much waste in what we do, and this is every function, whether it be sales, whether it be operations, whether it be support functions like finance and HR. Why are we doing things manually when actually AI could be doing it for us? And that's what we need to be looking for, is where can you use AI to do that work for you? Now, the danger though is that some people are fearful about that, because that makes me busy. And it's good to be busy, but that is a mindset that needs to change. There's being busy and there's being effective. And we need our people to be effective in what they do. And they need to be focusing on what adds value, not the stuff that doesn't. So, in a way, I would almost encourage anyone listening to this, do a time and motion study. Just do it for a week. Just record everything you do. And what do you think actually it doesn't need me to do it. It could be done by technology. That then immediately gives you your action plan of how could you utilize AI to do that for you.
That's a great way of analyzing, and that's a great answer. One thing I can immediately think of is whenever I write an email before AI came into existence into our daily lives, before ChatGPT and everything came in, I would write an email and then I would show to my colleague, "Hey, do you think this email is looking
Yeah,
good? I
yeah,
want to send it to my. Do you think the grammar is correct?" Because sometimes we miss it through our eyes, and
yes,
they would say, "Hey, that's a spelling mistake." And now I don't do those things. That's something AI can eliminate. Checking grammar at least. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Spellings. Yeah,
And
that's.
that's brilliant. That's evolution, and that's not AI replacing you. That's AI refining you. And that's exactly what we should be leveraging it for.
Right, right, exactly. Okay, and this would be my last question. And if we follow up, we will follow up more on those.
Of course.
You also talk about a lot about change management in your interviews. And now, how do we integrate change management with the whole AI thing coming in? I know that you what you're saying is AI is not yet ready. We will see a proof in the next another 1 year,
Mm,
but how will AI and change
you
management will work
know,
together?
change management again is something I've talked about for years, but this is my current hot topic. So, if people ask me what do we need to focus on in 2025, change management is the thing we need to focus on. But because there are certain things that when you do what I do, over time you get certain realizations. And the realization that I've had for a long time now is that when people are trying to change the nature of the way their organization works to become more customer led rather than sales or product led, it requires change. It requires change of mindset, but it also requires um, issues to be improved, to be changed. But what most organizations are failing to do is adopt change. Too often organizations um, adopt change, but they do it to people. And it's like a blunt object. Right, here's a new system. Boom. And they just expect it to work. But
Yep.
people are like, what do we need that for? Why do we need it? How are we get? And so the change isn't effective. But change management is not new. That there were academics talking about change management in the 70s. But the problem is in the nature of the world we live in today that becomes ever faster in the way it moves and increasingly short term in its thinking, people haven't got time for change management. No, just do it. Right. Well,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. Well, you can just do it, but actually, it won't take you any further forward because the change won't be effective. So we need methodology, and people don't like it, but it has to happen. People need to re-educate themselves as to what change management is. And there are lots of methodologies like Kotter, like ADKAR's Prosky's, if I say it right, Prosky's ADKAR model. But I also, as I'm in my office, this is a methodology, if you can see it on the screen, it's called CAP, which stands for the Change Acceleration Process. Now, people might not be able to notice, but it's gone yet. This used to be white. It's now gone yellow because I was given this in 1997.
Wow.
Something that's how old this is. But it
And you
is
have it till
brilliant.
now. Wow.
And I still use it to this day. So I think if organizations want tangible, measurable impact, they need to stop for a second and ask themselves, how are we going to manage change? Adoption of AI, okay, is change. And, arguably, organizations aren't doing it well because they're not managing the change. It's changing the way the organization works, but just plugging it in doesn't mean it's suddenly going to be really effective.
Right.
People need to understand the impact it's going to have. So, if anyone's interested in change management, reach out to me. But you need to um, get people to ask themselves, do we have an approach to change? And do we have people that understand how to manage change in our organization? Because if you don't, the likelihood is you will not be adopting change effectively.
Exactly. And for our audiences listening, because we have a lot of listeners from I don't know how, Portugal, and then Israel, United States, a lot from India because we are based out of India, but
Yes,
30% of people listening from Portugal, 20% listening from United States. Sometimes I get surprised, like, how is it happening?
yes.
But yeah, people listening, do please reach out to Ian on his LinkedIn. He's available. I also think you also have a website, iangolding.com.
I do, yeah, and people
Yeah,
can, LinkedIn is the easy way to get
easiest
hold of
way
me.
to reach out.
But there are so many people out there who want to guide you, want to support you. Many of them, like me, it's not about making money; it's about helping you to really get your head around these things. So
Hmm.
just reach out, and I'll give you whatever information I can.
I think, Ian, I'll be the first to reach out after this session. I'll
Good.
drop you a note over. Okay, before I let you go, I just want to have few names, few companies that you think are doing really great in CX right at the moment. Besides Ritz Carlton, because I know you are a fan of Ritz Carlton.
Fan of Rich Carter. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Amazon. That there is a very good example in the UK right now, an energy company called Octopus Energy, who are becoming quite renowned for what they're doing in the customer experience space. Energy, is a tough industry in most parts of the world. Energy companies don't have a great reputation, but Octopus Energy are, very, very impressive in the way that they're doing things. Um, Again, as I'm based in the UK, there is a Belgian insurance company called Ageas, Ageas. Their UK affiliate, Ageas UK, incredible what they're doing. But what they're doing is driven by a CEO who is completely committed to CX. And that's the same with Octopus Energy, actually. Their CEO is so focused on customer experience, and that's why they're able to make it happen. But I would encourage everyone to look at the Middle East. Okay, I mentioned it earlier. People may or may not be surprised, but Saudi Arabia, it is astonishing what's going on in Saudi Arabia. The focus on customer experience is insane, and some amazing case studies from the public sector. Lots of different government agencies, universities. So have a look at the. In fact, if people Google the Saudi Customer Experience Awards, they'll see the winners from, it was 2 weeks ago. You'd be amazed. So if you really want brilliant case studies, that's the place to go. The only other thing that will surprise people, I was in Romania a few weeks ago, and um, whilst I was in Romania, there were two companies from Moldova. Now, some of the listeners might be thinking, where is Moldova? But little country in between Romania and Russia. There were two organizations at that conference. One of them was a pharmaceutical company, but an over the counter pharmacy company with multiple branches. The other was I think, the second largest telco in Moldova. Both companies, their CEO came with all of their team, all of their leadership team. Both CEOs just coincidentally were ladies. So inspirational. Absolute Moldova. It's really, don't look at the US. If you want to see great examples, you'd be surprised. It's in countries that there is a desire to learn, a desire to evolve and grow. There isn't arrogance. There isn't, we know all of this. There is a real desire to be the best. So, yeah, look at the places you wouldn't necessarily imagine. In 3 weeks' time, I'm going to Georgia for the first time. You know, Georgia, a country that used to be part of the Soviet Union. Who would think they'd be interested in customer experience? That there are some great case studies building in parts of the world that you would not imagine.
Right. And when it's from the heart, it would be a great customer experience. When there's nothing inside, you just want to give your best, it will be a great experience. Um,
Absolutely.
Ian, I would really want to thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And one thing I know is you travel a lot. You get to
Yes.
travel a lot of different countries, for what I understand, right? How many
Yes.
countries have you been? Like, how many countries have
So
you traveled?
Georgia will be country 61.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I mean that means there are unexplored parts of the world. um, but yeah, it was never my intention to be in that many countries. It's just sort of evolved that way. But I'm at a position now where I'm also keen to support different professionals and communities that are starting out, and me going to those countries can often give them an injection of momentum. So if I'm able to, I will get there to support those countries in their evolution.
That's awesome. What you're doing is really great, and that's really inspiring. I know that you travel all these countries because of work, and I'm surprised that people are really excited about customer experience and the way it's
Mm,
evolving. Especially
that's
now is a
amazing.
very
Yeah,
great time. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's a great job to have, I guess.
Well, I've said for years it's my vocation rather than a job. It
Hmm.
is slightly exhausting sometimes. I'm not getting any younger, but as long as I'm physically able to, I will keep doing
Yeah, yeah. And we would like to close the session now, but I really, really want to thank you from the deep of my heart. Thank you so much for sharing your
it.
wisdom.
Pleasure.
It was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, man. And thank you, as always, for asking me.
Thank you so much, Ian.